For this recipe, I'm using the turkey drumsticks. However, you can use any other meat you wish to use. And I'm using 1 bay leaf, garlic, onions, oil, mustard, black pepper, salt, vinegar, stock cubes, and you will be needing the toothpicks. And I'm using also Scotch bonnet chili peppers, but I'll be de-seeding it, and I'm only using a tiny bit. Still, you can leave it out if you want to. I just wanted to share this. If you may not know, these stock cubes are actually these ones. They're the basics. They're 25p. They used to be 10p. This is about £2, and this is about 90p or so. You can see that I do have the longer ones, but for this recipe you need the smaller ones, which is the toothpicks. And I also have the salad tomatoes and a round lettuce. Now that's only to decorate the plate, really, nothing else. I like to use my mortar and pestle more than I like my garlic crusher. I just find it easier to wash. Now I'll be marinating this. The key to this recipe is how long you marinate it for. I always go for overnight seasoning because I prefer to cook during the day rather than later on in the day. And just try and get in as many hours as you can. I am done with dicing the turkey. And I don't know if you can see the sizes I've gone for, because obviously when you cook it, it will shrink. And with the turkey, it's quite hard work to do it. So if you're using beef, etc., to do this, you're going to have much more of an easy time, because for this one, it wasn't only about deboning and skinning. I had to go in there and take all those little bits of bone, I guess, that is, can be there, which is a bit tedious. However, I have the garlic, and I've gone for 5 cloves. I would have gone 6 because these are tiny. I just don't like the number 6. Superstitious. Now, for the stock cube, I'm going with 1 for the seasoning. We'll use the other one later. And that's because, obviously, you want to have as much flavor going on as you can for it to marinate overnight. But don't use too much, because you're going to be frying the meat. And when you fry meat that has stock cube in it or Maggi, it tends to burn. The stock cube will burn easily, and I don't really like that. And that's the Scotch bonnet pepper that I have. It's not even half. It's basically like a third. And I didn't really get near to the seeds where they are, because that's the hot area, but it is from the top to the bottom. And I've gone for the green one. No reason really, because like I said, I'm not really looking to make it really spicy. I just want the flavor, and all of them really do have flavor, although the flavors of each color does vary. So go for any color that you want. To be honest with you, I need the other colors because I'll be cooking something and I just want to have some Scotch bonnet there. So we still have the 1 bay leaf, and I've gone for 3 onions, and yep. So I'm just going to season it now. And as you can see, I've just put this on to strain the water out, because you can have some water there after washing it, and you do want this to not have too much water in there. Now I've added the black pepper, garlic, salt, and the 1 stock cube. I've also put in the Scotch bonnet pepper, the bay leaf, and that's the mustard, which is about a tablespoon. For the pepper, I've already said I'm not going to cut it up. I'm probably not even going to cook with it. I just want it to season there. That's the onion there, and I've just laid it out like this, just so you see the easy way of cutting it, just to get them into the shape. Right, so now we just add some oil, and I'll add probably about... That should do. How much do you think that is? Probably 2 or 3 tablespoons. And some vinegar. That should do. Roughly the same amount. And then you want to put in the onions. Oh dear. Okay, I'm going to do this off camera and then come back. Now it's all mixed, and I am just going to cover this and allow it to sit in the fridge until tomorrow. It's actually 5 o'clock right now, and I'll probably be cooking this in the afternoon, early afternoon, say 12 or 1 in the afternoon. And I have to put oil because I'm letting it marinate overnight. If you just allow the vinegar in there with no oil, it can toughen the meat and begin to cook it, and it will have a very strong flavor of the vinegar. So if you were cooking this and you didn't have much time to let it marinate, then don't put the oil, because then it will be sort of okay. But like I said, if you have enough time, do put the oil in there. Okay, so we just cover this. Of course, do not taste this marinade. I already know you know that it's raw meat. You will have a lot of time to taste it when you're cooking it. So this is the next day. It's actually 2:45, and I didn't plan to do it this late, but I just had a few things to do. However, now what you need to do is to... I've actually just taken this out of the fridge, and now I must separate the onions away from the meat, so I'll be putting the onions here. I have taken the onions away. They're here, and you may have, those little pieces. Don't worry too much about them. The reason why you take the onions out is because it will take, obviously, less time to cook than the meat will do. You don't want the onions to be crunchy when everything is done, but you need them to have that bit of a bite to it, so obviously it would stand out when you put it on the toothpicks. Should you put it in now, it will just, soften too much, really. It could even melt away. So now come to the pot, and we're just starting, and you need the oil now. Now with this dish, you are going to have to close your eyes when you put oil, because you need a lot of the oil. You will obviously have it taken out when it's all done, but you just need to be really generous with it. Can you see how much I've put in? I'm sorry, I couldn't tell you how many cups that is. I'm not very good with all those measurements, but I did put quite a bit. So I think my oil is hot enough. It's at 6 minutes, and you can hear those popping sounds. I think the pot was wet. As I mentioned yesterday, I will not be cooking the pepper. I may do it later when I taste it. I don't know yet. It's just the kids I'm concerned about. Okay, so here's the meat now, and this is on high heat, by the way. If I turn it down, I'll let you know. So we'll just start frying it now. Okay, so I've put everything in one go, of course. And I did pour everything. Even if you had a little bit of some marinade there, just pour it in. It doesn't matter. And you can see it's basically swimming in the oil, but there is some of the marinade, so not all of it is the oil. So it's at 20 minutes now, and this is the point where I want to put in the stock cubes and the salt. And I don't know if you can see that the oil is starting to separate from the actual broth. So putting in the stock cube now really helps with actually seasoning the meat in terms of salt, because it will allow it to boil into it. I've added the salt and the one stock cube I have, and I've gone for another one because for me, I think it's safe for me to taste it now, and I did, and I just think maybe a bit more seasoning in terms of just the salt. Now, if you look at this liquid that we have here, it's quite a bit, and we didn't put any liquid in the marinade, neither did I put any in the meat, in the pot. This has all come from the meat itself, because it shrinks, and when it shrinks, obviously it loses the water, which the meat had. If you're cooking this with chicken, you are going to have to be careful. Basically, you might even need to take some of this broth out, because at this minute, I am waiting for this to dry out. But because I'm cooking it with turkey, and if you're cooking it with red meat, then you're also fine. But with the chicken, it will end up, it will fall apart because it just will not be able to take all that time in cooking. Does that make sense? It will be too soft. And because this is like usually a party food, of course you do want it soft. But with chicken, it ends up being too soft. It's actually not very nice. I don't remember ever cooking this with chicken, to be honest. I always go for this turkey meat. Even when I didn't know about this turkey meat, I don't remember ever making it. Probably I just didn't do it. If you're cooking it with chicken, make sure there isn't the skin on, because it's going on the on the toothpicks. I don't think it's just very appealing to have a bit of meat and skin on. So take that out. Be generous with your oil, but I will also advise you to put the marinade that you have into the pot, because that's the marinade that's been there for the overnight. So if you throw it out, you'll lose a lot of flavor. But like I said, I think you might just end up having to remove some of this broth and put it somewhere. Don't throw it away, because I'm not quite sure how it will turn out for you. Keep it somewhere and just see how it goes for you. But do keep an eye on the chicken, because you really couldn't cook it for that long, no matter how big you make it. As you can see, we've gone for these sizes. And you can even make it smaller. Again, the smaller you go, you just must be really, keep an eye on that broth. At the end of the day, this needs to be dry. And by the time you put the onions, all you want here is a little bit of stock going on, nothing more. This is going on toothpicks, so no sauce needs to be around it. Actually, just a little bit, because you would want to just spread it over when you lay it out, just so it doesn't dry out. But as for sauce dripping and use soup, no, it doesn't go. I forgot to mention as well, we're at 37 minutes. I do come and stir it every 5-10 minutes or so, but I can promise you that it doesn't stick to the bottom, because you can see there's a lot of broth there. So just do that for whatever reason. I don't know why, but I do it. But honestly, if you didn't, it's not sticking to the bottom. Not yet anyway. But you can see now that the stock is going down. As you can see, the meat is starting to poke up rather than it being covered with the stock. So you just let it go. So this is where we are. It's at 47 minutes. It's really been cooking for 40 minutes. So now, keep an eye on the heat, because you can see that the liquid is all but gone, really. It's the oil that's making its way back with a force. So I'm turning my heat down. It was on the highest. I'm going to go down to 3, so medium high. And now, taste it for your salt. By the way, I did say I wanted to add another salt cube, but I only went for like a quarter of it, because I guess I just needed to mix it a little bit more. It wasn't as under-seasoned as I thought. So yeah, for me, I'm happy. Actually, I haven't tasted it. Let me taste to see how it's cooking, and then I go in with it. It's fine. It's softened to how I want it. So I'm going to go with the onion, and I think I'm just going to be brave and pop in that pepper there. And that's it. So just give that a mix, and don't forget the heat needs to be turned down now. So all you're looking for at this point is to have those onions translucent, but to have some bite. So that's in now. And this is the way I've grown up to see it and have it. But if you want to, just go a bit extra on it, add some color to it, it's fine. You can use like the red peppers or anything that you wish to, really. It will look even more appealing and, pleasing to the eye when you put it on the toothpicks. Yeah. Okay, so we're done, really. It's 1:07. So an hour's cooking time really. And you can see the onions. For me, this is how I want them to be. They are translucent. They do look very softened, but there's a tiny bit of a bite to it. Now from the table you could see that I did bring closer a glass of water, just a little bit. I didn't get to use any because it's just the way it goes really. Sometimes it can be a bit too dry, or you know, this time I just didn't get to use it at all. Just see how it's working out for you should you need it. All I will say is that you never really do need much water with this. As you can see, that's all that I had put aside hoping to use or thinking I might need it. And that's it really. So what you do here, okay, I'm switching it off and I'll just allow it to stand for a minute. Then the next thing I will do is I'll tip it over so you can see like a wedge to have it slanted, and that is to allow the oil to all come and settle. So pile it up high as possibly as much as you can. Gosh, it's bad, isn't it? Okay, so just do that and just allow the oil to settle, and obviously when it's done just scoop out as much as you can, and then it's time to put it to use the toothpicks. And even when you're using the toothpicks, again, you need to slant this somewhere because the oil just seems to never stop coming out. So when you take the oil out, and again it's still slanted, you want to start taking from the top because obviously that's been drained down, and then you just start arranging on the toothpicks. And there's no specific way to arrange it. Do whatever you want. 2 and then an onion, or 1 and then an onion, and go on, and that's it really. I did say I'm going to allow mine just to settle until the heat, you know, cools down completely. Try and do this, please, because this, you know, when you cook meat, it takes a while to settle. Like when you say when you fry it or have it in the oven or grill it, you need to rest it so the juices go back. It's just like the same with this. So allow it to rest, and you can see it's still bubbling even though the heat's turned off. So for me, I'm just going to let it not completely cool down, but you know, to the cooking motion of it to just stop, and then I will slant it and have the oil drain away from it. So I'm done with letting it rest, and there's some oil, but there's also some sort of sauce. I call that sauce. Anyway, this is the oil that's come out of it, and I'm just starting to and I'm coming to decorate the plate now. And this is what I'm using to put it on. Of course, I need the toothpicks, which I have, and then I'm using gloves, and that's because once I put it on the plate, obviously it's ready to eat. I think it's just more pleasant to use the gloves. And these are, sorry, I have no idea what you call them. They're very cheap. I think they come at $3 a pound, or possibly even $5 a pound. And they're the disposable foil plates. Yeah. Okay. So I'm done with putting it onto the toothpicks, and this is the platter here. I've done my best. I hope you like it. And that's the Scotch bonnet chili peppers. By the way, I actually took it out, say about 5 minutes after I put it in, because I just got a whiff of it and I was a bit worried that it might be too spicy. So I'm just going to continue to put the bit of lettuce that I have left. And what I'll do now is I'm going to put this gravy here. I'll mix it all. There's just a bit of oil, and I'm not really worried about that. So I'll mix this all, and I'm going to be applying it basically like in the middle. I'm going to try and not to get the stick out bits covered in the gravy. So just apply it in the middle, and that just helps with it not drying out too much. Okay, so I've done that, and I'm all done now. and I've gone ahead and just laid the lettuce, the leaf there on top, and I've put this on the side. Another nice decoration would be to actually have this bud right in the middle, in the center, and then just take the tomatoes and slice them up as you wish and tower them on the side. That's really pretty. I do that sometimes, just as they are now, but to have them actually sliced and leave them there, and then just have this as well. Now for this recipe, I have to do another mention, which is to Nabil Abdurrashid, and his YouTube name is Half Hausa Man. I already do have a recipe that I did for him. I have to say that I wasn't too happy with that recipe. It was actually nothing to do with the recipe itself. It was just my commenting and how to say this. I believe he probably will know what I'm talking about. I was having too much fun that day, and maybe I should have, been a bit more serious with it and mind what it was that I was doing or consuming, should I say. So this one I think is a bit more, thoughtful or respectful, something like that. Now, I hope you like this, and I'm also just doing it for everybody else, but I want to give them a mention for this because, yes, I would have preferred for me to have handled the other one just as I've done with this one. All serious and, proper, basically. So thank you all for watching, and just, have a go. And if you want any more information as to anything else in regards, just leave a comment, and then I can go on to help you on with that.